Piers Morgan has made a career out of pushing back against what he sees as the extremes of woke culture. From calling out the woke brigade over his controversial exit from Good Morning Britain to vowing to cancel culture.
I want to cancel culture.
With his new show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, he's not afraid to speak his mind. Whether it's blasting gender identity debates or criticizing what he calls the utter insanity of woke agendas, here are 10 times Piers Morgan destroyed woke culture. Number 10. Since her big breakthrough in 2021, he's had quite a few things to say, especially when he thought she choked during Wimbledon by pulling out due to health issues. But when she won the US Open, Morgan quickly changed his tune and praised her. Now, he's got something else to say after seeing her in a new advert for HSBC.
I want to tell you a little story. It's about an advertising campaign so helplessly woke and absurd, but I'm convinced it was designed specifically to irritate me.
Raducanu's latest campaign reimagines classic fairy tales like Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, but with a modern twist. The stories flip the script by turning these princesses into successful businesswomen who don't need Prince Charming to get by. It's all about empowering women to succeed on their own terms, which Raducanu echoed on social media. She shared that these new versions show women using their brains and hard work to make it without needing a guy to rescue them. Morgan, never one to miss a chance to criticize, jumped on this. He suggested that the ad was part of the whole woke agenda, trying to cancel men from any important roles.
It gets worse. The book called Fairer Tales reimagines Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty and Rapunzel as successful businesswomen. Prince Charming is inevitably erased as the main character. He's a prince and he's charming. But apparently that's not enough. The marketing geniuses decided to pay tennis player Emma Raducanu to read the stories, for reasons which remain unclear.
On his show, he sarcastically pointed out that, sure, Raducanu doesn't need men, except for her father, who manages her career, her 5 male coaches, and her agent, who's made sure she's getting those big paychecks. And don't forget, the top guys at HSBC are all men too. Morgan didn't just stop there. He gave some unsolicited advice to Raducanu, saying she should spend less time on commercials and more time on her tennis if she wants to win anything other than endorsement deals. He praised her US Open win, but pointed out she hasn't had much success on the court since. His tone and the panel's comments suggested that Raducanu's acting skills in the advert left a lot to be desired, calling her performance stiff and unconvincing. Number 9. This time, he was joined by Fox News contributor Tomi Lahren, author Angelica Malin, and Talk TV contributor Esther Krake. The topic? Whether gender identity politics are overshadowing events like International Women's Day. And, of course, Piers had plenty to say.
I think we have a right to self-identify, and you said
As
you
what?
want to.
As what?
If you'd like to be a woman, you can identify as a woman. I don't know why there is such an issue around.
We've literally just seen a male rapist use that scam to get himself put into a female prison.
Morgan didn't hold back, suggesting that maybe it's time to cancel International Women's Day altogether, at least until everyone can agree on what a woman actually is. Angelica Malin pushed back, arguing that people should have the freedom to identify however they want. But Tomi Lahren warned that letting people self-identify without clear boundaries could confuse young kids who are still figuring out who they are. Then, in typical Piers fashion, he threw in a zinger, claiming that under today's standards, he could identify as a black lesbian if he wanted to.
Why can't I identify as a black lesbian?
Well, firstly, I mean, it was.
I'm serious. I'm serious. If I can identify as anything without any need to prove I'm actually what that is, why can't I on International Women's Day say I'm Piers Morgan, I'm a black lesbian?
I think taking it to a kind of absurd status,
I think
we're
that's
talking
what.
about quite a
With
strong
respect, I think that
change.
you'd already opened the absurdity door by saying it is limitless. You can do what you like. Anyone can say I'm a woman. So I simply ask you, why can't I?
I mean, this point kind of ridicules trans people.
He pointed out the absurdity, saying there's no clear line anymore when it comes to self-identification, and that the whole thing has gotten ridiculous. The segment stirred the pot, with Morgan suggesting that this new wave of identity politics is diluting the very concept of being a woman. All I can say is, we need more independent black women like you, Piers. So proud of you. Number 8. Piers Morgan went head-to-head with vegan activist Joey Carbstrong, and things got heated fast. The debate kicked off with Joey lecturing about animal rights and why everyone should go vegan to save the planet, but Piers called out Joey on the irony of vegan diets, like how almond milk, a staple in many vegan households, comes at the cost of millions of bees dying during almond farming. This obviously left the woke activists speechless.
Percent or 90% of the world's almonds come from California, where they are made involving the demolition of billions of bees who get murdered. How do you feel about the little
They don't
guys?
get murdered. That's completely false, and I don't know why.
How many billions? How many billions of bees die in?
So it's not really a rights violation. Not murdering the bees.
Joey,
it is
here's my
dying.
point.
The bees
Big
are just,
pig.
no,
Big pig.
One second.
A big pig makes you cry. A
They
little
get
bee.
killed in gas
You
chambers.
don't care.
No, listen.
You don't care about.
There's no reason to be upset about pollination.
Number 7. Piers Morgan ripped into Harry and Meghan's Netflix docu-series, calling it out for what he sees as a dramatic, self-serving pity party. He didn't buy Harry's claims about the royal family lying to protect William, but not doing the same for him. Piers pointed out the glaring contradictions in their storylines, like Meghan's suggestion that the royal family had control over who could attend their wedding, which he called nonsense.
Who is it? The irony is earth-shattering, isn't it? Harry and Meghan are the Duke and Duchess of gaslighting themselves. The entire show is a cynical attempt to manipulate viewers into questioning their own recollections of reality. And if we learned anything at all from the first 3 hours of this $100 million wine-a-thon, it's surely that this dismal duo wouldn't know the truth if it smacked them around their smug chop.
Morgan didn't just stop at pointing out their inconsistencies. He mocked the whole premise of their show, seeing it as nothing more than a calculated move to keep themselves in the public eye while playing the victims. He argued that their narrative is full of holes and seems more about milking their royal connections for sympathy and cash rather than addressing any real problems.
I'm not trying to stand out here.
No, the last thing Meghan Markle would ever want to do is stand out. But it's all another lie. Photos taken by the evil, bigoted British press show her wearing pretty much every colour in the rainbow. The show opens.
He also took shots at how they constantly complain about being mistreated by the monarchy and the media, while simultaneously making deals and staying in the spotlight. For Piers, the whole series is a prime example of attention-seeking behavior disguised as a quest for truth. He laid it all out, showing how the Sussexes are more interested in maintaining their victim status and staying relevant than in being honest or consistent.
All the time. Nothing they ever say seems to stand up to reasonable scrutiny. And I say that as somebody who lost his last job presenting Good Morning Britain because I wouldn't apologise for saying I didn't believe Meghan Markle. Think about that. Well, just like they've failed to ever provide a shred of evidence for their claims of racism in the palace, or Meghan's claims over mental health problems. She said that they were not just ignored by the palace, but she was told she wasn't allowed to get any help for suicidal thoughts by somebody at the palace. Who was that person? They shouldn't be working at the palace. We've never had a name. Like we've never had any names about the racism.
Piers Morgan stirred the pot once again in a heated debate with Juliette Gallatley, the director of the vegan charity Viva, over their controversial Killer Yogurt ad that depicted Moeller Corner yogurts as causing harm.
Apparently, all yogurts are evil. They're murderous. A vegan charity has released an ad about them that will give you nightmares. Juliette, I've got to be honest, that's one of the most disgusting things I think I've ever had to watch. It's also one of the most disingenuous. It's a yogurt, for goodness sake. Why are you making ads like that about a yogurt?
I'm sorry, I don't.
During the debate, Piers, never one to shy away from making his point in the most dramatic way possible, ate yogurt right in front of Juliette,
You are trying to deflect
because I eat a Muller yogurt. Look,
animals are factory farmed. You're trying to deflect from the fact that veganism protects the environment.
Juliet, we're still here.
We are, but
Nobody's
how much longer
extinct.
have...
He pointed out that while vegans criticize others for consuming animal products, common vegan foods like avocados and almonds are responsible for the deaths of billions of bees due to farming practices. Number 5. Now, this is one of Morgan's career-defining moments. The debate was whether men can be mothers. The debate was sparked by a London theater's tweet calling for female-identifying mothers to become playwrights, which immediately caught Piers' ire. As usual, he wasn't shy about voicing his stance, arguing that being a mother is inherently a female role, and he was quick to dismiss the idea that men could fulfill that position.
That we'll all agree that motherhood starts way beyond the biological event, and anyone, including men, can mother and play the role of a mother.
Father.
Piers, would you...
Women, mother. That's because the titles are male and female titles.
Okay, with respect, would you look into the face of a man that has just lost his wife and is really struggling to play the role of the mother and the father and say that to him?
Yeah.
So you're not a mother.
He's the father.
That child...
Well, you might be more sensitive in those circumstances.
You still call him a father.
He's playing the role of the mother because...
If that was me, I'd be a father. I wouldn't suddenly morph into a mother.
Broadcaster Amy Nichol tried to make her case, arguing that nurturing and caring aren't exclusive to women and that men can also take on the role of a mother. But Piers wasn't having it. He fired back, emphasizing that he successfully fathered 4 children and made it clear that, in his view, motherhood is an exclusively female domain.
It's not, because he can pretend to be a mother all he likes, but he can't breastfeed his children.
Sorry.
So it's like, you know, there are limitations to motherhood for men.
Motherhood isn't breastfeeding.
No, but hang on a moment.
It's part of it for some mothers.
Is it intrinsically part of it? Is having a womb motherhood? Would you say to a woman that can't breastfeed that they're not a mother?
No.
Would you say that?
No, I'm just saying it's one of the many things that actually only a woman... Break it to you.
Okay,
I know we're not allowed to say this anymore, but it's an insult to every damn mother in this country. That suddenly blokes can come along and go, I'm mummy. No, you're not. You're not.
He even whipped out his phone to read the dictionary definition of mother to drive his point home, highlighting what he saw as the natural limitations of men in the role, like the inability to breastfeed.
Here's a dictionary definition of mother.
You're going to say
a woman in relation to her child
and now read the verb.
or children.
And now read the verb.
female parent.
A mother is a female parent.
If you read the verb definition, bring up a child with care and affection. However, it quotes, she didn't know how to mother my brother, he was very sensitive, right? She's mothered 2 foals if it's give birth to. It's all female.
Can I give an example?
The debate quickly devolved into a shouting match, with journalist Sonia Poulton barely able to get a word in as Piers dominated the conversation. Number 4. Piers Morgan had a field day with the recent woke changes to children's classics like the Beano comics and Roald Dahl's books. In typical Piers fashion, he tore into the idea of sanitizing literature for today's kids, calling it absurd and dangerous. His main gripe? The decision to remove words like fat and ugly from characters like Augustus Gloop and Mrs. Twit. To Piers, this is more than just softening the language. It's pandering to an overly sensitive crowd that thinks kids can't handle anything less than bubble-wrapped language.
Because he's spotty, is now known as Scotty. He's still got spots, you just can't say it. And Fatty, who was called Fatty because he's a fatty, is now known as Freddie, even though he's still fat. We just can't call him that. The kids have been joined by 5 new pupils, including Harsha, Mihira and Mandira, in order to be more inclusive. Mandira is featured in storylines about mental health to apparently highlight the anxieties facing children.
Morgan didn't mince words, calling this a relentless war on language and mocking those behind these changes as self-righteous wastrels. He joked that soon, even the BFG will be accused of fat-shaming just because his ears are too big or something equally ridiculous.
Stop teaching them constantly that the entire world is out to get them. Show them how to be less offended by absolutely everything. Stop allowing them to all get a prize in everything they compete in at school, so they all think that they're winners when sometimes they're not. Because none of that is a proper preparation for the real world. The one that in Barbie Land is such a shock to Margot Robbie when she gets to it. The real world, I'm afraid, is warts and all. It can be tough out there. So why don't we prepare kids for how to handle it?
Piers argued that these books are supposed to challenge kids, even if some of the content is a bit unsettling. But hey, God forbid a kid learns that some people in the world might actually be described as fat or ugly. Piers also took issue with what he sees as hypocrisy in modern media, where they censor the word fat in a storybook, but will celebrate morbid obesity under the guise of body positivity. He thinks it's a mixed message that doesn't help anyone, especially when anxiety and confidence issues among kids are skyrocketing. So, while publishers might think they're making a kinder world, Piers believes they're just feeding into the coddling culture that leaves kids unprepared for real life, where, newsflash, not everyone's a delicate little snowflake. Number 3. Piers Morgan didn't hold back during his interview with Just Stop Oil activist James Skeet on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Piers called out Skeet and other climate protesters for their disruptive roadblock tactics, saying it does more harm than good, especially when emergency services are delayed because of their protests.
I think you're an absolute
because you're
idiot,
a multi-millionaire and you don't care. You don't care
yeah.
about the British people. You don't care about the working class.
Yeah.
You
Mate,
care
what you're
about,
doing,
you
what
care
you're doing,
about the rich. You
what
care
you're
about
doing,
being a
what
shill
you-
for
what-
Rupert
what-
Murdoch.
What
don't
you're
you?
doing is what you silly little boys do.
You're calling me a silly little
You silly
boy,
little boys.
are you?
You come on TV.
Pathetic gammony man, baby.
You do your little silly sound bites for Twitter, and Twitter goes, "Oh, look at my little hero," whereas the rest of the public watching go, "Who is this little brat?"
Labeled Skeet as a little brat, accusing the group of being out of touch with reality and more interested in causing chaos than actually helping their cause. Richard Tice and journalist Jenny Kleeman also weighed in, with Tice echoing Piers' sentiment that these methods are counterproductive. It's clear Piers believes there are better ways to protest than making life harder for everyday people and emergency workers trying to do their jobs. He kept the pressure on Skeet, suggesting that the protests are more about self-righteous posturing than any real impact on climate policy. Number 2. Piers Morgan blasted Disney's decision to reimagine the Seven Dwarfs in the upcoming live-action Snow White remake, calling the move stinking woke hypocrisy. Leaked images showed a diverse group of characters, but noticeably absent were the classic dwarfs. Piers argued that Disney's attempt at diversity and inclusion actually excludes the very actors who would have been ideal for these roles. Dwarf actors.
We bring in Dylan because Dylan is also offended and he happens to be a dwarf actor. Dylan, I've got to say, I was very curious when I saw what Peter Dinklage came out and said, because I did wonder who appointed him the head of the dwarf actor community. And it turns out nobody did other than him. And the people who it seems to me have really suffered in all this are the 6 dwarf actors who would have expected to have roles in this remake in a massive Hollywood blockbuster, who are now not going to have that experience, or the money, or the fame that may have come with that.
He pointed out that while Hollywood has pushed for more representation, it seems contradictory to sideline dwarf actors for roles famously made for them. Morgan underscored the inconsistency in the industry's approach to casting, noting how roles for specific groups are often reserved exclusively for actors who belong to those groups. Yet when it comes to one of the most iconic dwarf roles in cinema history, dwarf actors are inexplicably left out. He argued that it's not progress, but a misguided attempt to appear inclusive, which ends up denying opportunities to actors from the dwarf community. Number 1. Piers Morgan got into a fiery exchange with plus-size model Angelina Duplessis on Good Morning Britain over the issue of glorifying obesity. The debate kicked off after Miley Cyrus featured Angelina in her music video for Mother's Daughter, which sparked backlash from critics who felt it was promoting unhealthy body standards. Piers argued that featuring plus-size models in the media in this way normalizes and even glorifies obesity, which he believes sends the wrong message about health.
Why? If you don't mind me just going through some stats here. You're 36 years old, you're 5'4", you're 380 pounds, 27.1 stone, and your BMI is 64.6. Now, the BMI ranges, according to the World Health Organization, 18 is underweight, up to 24 normal weight, 25 to 29 overweight, 30 to 34 class 1 obesity, 35 to 39 class 2 obesity, anything over 40 class 3 obesity, which is morbid obesity, i.e. a level of obesity which could very possibly lead to early death. Your BMI is 64.6.
Do you think that Angelina doesn't know all of this?
No, the reason I'm saying it is so that viewers can understand the debate properly. My argument is this, is that when you are that level of morbid obesity, statistically, is it right to put people like yourself into a pop video celebrating that kind of weight? And I ask you honestly.
Really concerned about people being obese and representing something bad, you would take yourself off the air because you're not exactly slim yourself.
Well,
right?
OK, I'm 220 pounds and I'm 6'1". Right, you're 5'4" and you're 380 pounds. So there is a difference. I'm not morbidly obese.
Right, but you're still
I'm actually
fat
reasonably
too.
healthy.
You're still fat
I'm reasonably fit. Well, you might think I'm fat. Most viewers are looking at this and think they're not seeing me as morbidly obese, right? So you're perfectly entitled to throw the jibes back at me.
But you're still fat. You being less
I'm not in
fat
Miley
than
Cyrus's
me
pop
doesn't
video.
make, you know...
I'm not in a pop video, am I? Extolling
But
the
you're on
virtues of my body.
You're on TV. You're on TV every day.
So you think that me
You're
sitting here now...
You're on TV every day. You're going to tell me that...
You think, just to clarify, there is a comparison between me sitting here now, 6'1", 220 pounds, I am reflecting and celebrating a clinically dangerous level of weight, you think?
Angelina, however, wasn't having it. She clapped back, calling out Piers on his own weight, suggesting that if obesity is such a problem, maybe he shouldn't be on TV either. She defended her appearance in the video, arguing that representation matters and that people of all sizes deserve visibility without being shamed. The debate quickly became a shouting match, with Piers insisting that celebrating all body types can inadvertently promote unhealthy lifestyles.
180 pounds, naked woman appearing in a Miley Cyrus video.
Great eye roll,
We're
by the
all
way.
going to talk about your body, aren't we? You know that. That's why you did it.
So, there you have it. Which one of these moments did you like the most? Let me know in the comments.